Hey guys, welcome back to Angular 10 Spring Boot CRUD Full Stack Application Tutorials series. Hey guys, we have completed end-to-end list employee functionality. In this video, we are going to configure routing and navigation in our Angular application. Well, going forward, we will be creating a lot of components in our Angular application, and hence in this video let's go ahead and let's configure routing and navigation in our Angular application. Alright, so configuring routing and navigation is pretty simple in Angular project. You just follow the steps I'm going to implement in this video. Well, when we create an Angular application using Angular CLI command like ng new followed by name of the project, so this command will ask a question for us like, would you like to add Angular routing? So if we have a requirement to configure routing in our Angular app, then we say yes, otherwise we say no, right? Let's say we want to configure routing in our Angular application and we say yes, then Angular CLI will automatically configure routing for us, and we need to only configure routes that are required to navigate to specific URL path to specific component. So that we'll see a bit later. If you don't specify Angular routing option here, if you say no for this question, then you need to manually configure routing step by step. And let's go ahead and let's understand what are the required steps required to configure routing in Angular application. First step is open index.html, and here inside header tag you can find a base tag. Base href equals to slash. So this base tag is required so that the application knows how to construct the URLs while navigation. So this is the first step. And second step is you need to create app-routing.module.ts. So we have already configured routing using Angular CLI. So Angular CLI already created all the necessary steps that are required to configure routing in Angular application. But if you don't configure routing while application creation using Angular CLI command like ng new, then you need to manually configure routing like this. So first step is you need to provide a base tag in an index.html like this, and second step is you need to create app-routing.module.ts file like this, and we create an app routing module, and it is annotated with @ng-module decorator, and here we specify a router module from Angular/router package. And router module has a method for routes, and for route method takes routes as an array. And so look at here, we have defined a constant routes array, and inside array we configure routes, and each route we configure as an object. Alright, and this routes is type of routes module which is from Angular/router package. Alright, so this is the second step. And the third step is go to the app module.ts file, and here you can see app routing module. So you need to import app routing module, and you need to provide app routing module inside imports array, so that our application needs to know we have configured routing in our Angular application. Alright, so this is the third step. And fourth step is we need to configure routing in our app routing module. So here inside routes array we need to define a routes. Alright, inside a routes array let's create a JavaScript object. And so a route definition is a JavaScript object. Here I will define a path. So path in our case is employees, and then component is employee list component. Alright, So look at here, this route is a definition of JavaScript object. Okay, and each route typically has two properties. First property is path, so it's a string and it specifies the URL path for the route. And second property is component, it specifies what component your application needs to display for this particular path. It's pretty simple, right? Now let's go ahead and let's configure one more route. So we need to configure route to redirect URL from empty path to /employees. So let's go ahead and let's configure a route to redirect from empty path to employees. Okay, let me show you how to do it. Let's create a JavaScript object inside an array, and this is path, and path is empty, and then we have redirect to property. This should be employees, and then we need to define a path match, so this should be a full. Alright, so when we enter a empty path in browser like localhost 4200, it should redirect to employees path, and employees path has a component like employee list component, and this is the path match strategy. So it is recommended to use path match full strategy when we configure a empty path. Alright, so this is a pretty simple routes we have defined in a routes array, and this routes array we pass to for root method of router module, and this router module we get from Angular/router package. It's pretty simple, right? You understood the flow, right? So first we configure base tag with href equals to /in-index.html, and then we create app routing module, and inside app routing module we provide we import router module from Angular/router package, and this module has for root method, and we pass routes to this for root method, and then we import app routing module inside our root module, that is app module here. So this is third step, and we configure routes in our routes array in app routing module. So this is the fourth step, and fifth step is we need to configure a router outlet directive. So go to the app component.html template, and here we have provided app employee list selector as a custom HTML element. So let's replace this with the directive called router outlet. So router outlet is Angular provided directive. Okay, so we need to use this directive in order to update our templates to dynamically load a component based on the URL path. Let's save all the files. Let's go back to the browser and let's verify how our routing works. So if you type the URL localhost 4200, it should redirect to the employees path. So look at here, when I enter localhost 4200, it is redirecting to /employees. So this is what we have provided route here. So when we type empty path, then it should redirect to the employees, and the corresponding component, that is employees component, will get rendered. Okay, great. And when we use the URL path localhost 4200 /employees, this should render employee list component. Alright guys, we have successfully configured routing in our Angular application. Now let's go ahead and let's see how the navigation we can configure. Currently our application supports 2 routes, right? However, only way to use these routes is for the users to manually type the URL path in the browser's address bar. but sometimes we want to click on some link or button, then we should navigate to the corresponding component. This is called the navigation, and let's see how to configure navigation in our Angular application. So open app component template, and now what we'll do, we'll implement header and footer for our application, and also we'll provide a navigation links in header section. Okay, for that let's go ahead and let's first write the code for the header. This is the navigation tag, and here we're going to add some Bootstrap CSS classes. Okay, and inside this navigation bar we'll configure the URLs and provide a Bootstrap CSS class like this. So this is the unordered list, so let's also define a list here, and let's go ahead and let's provide a Bootstrap CSS class that is now -item, and let's go ahead and let's configure hyperlink here, and Bootstrap CSS class like now link, and then let's say the employee list. So once we click on this hyperlink, that is employee list, we should be able to navigate to the employee list page. Now let's use a Angular directive, that is router link, to provide a navigation path URL path here. For example, a router link. So router link is a Angular provided directive, and here we provide a URL path. So this is the employees, so that we have configured in app routing module here. Alright, so this is the Angular directive that will basically connects the routes to specified template files. Okay, now we want to identify the active route, right? So for that we can use Angular directive called router link active. So we can use this directive to identify the active route, and this active is basically provided by Bootstrap, so we can use active class here. So this is a simple header, and here I have just added a single link. So going forward we'll add few more links to our header section. Now let's go ahead and let's add a footer section to our Angular application. Let's write a code here. Just use footer HTML element and the CSS class, let's say footer. So this is the custom CSS class that will add a style to this CSS class bit later. And inside footer we're gonna add a div here, and let's add a Bootstrap CSS class that is container. Inside a div let's specify spam, and inside spam let's write the text like all writes result 2020 at Java Guides. It's a pretty simple footer. Let's open styles.css file, and inside this file let's create a footer CSS class with some CSS properties like position absolute, width 100%, height 70 pixel, background color blue, text align center, color white. Okay, let's save all the files and let's go back to the browser and let's see how it looks. Yeah, here we go. So look at here, our Angular application looks good now. So let me recap what we have done in this video. We have configured routing for our Angular application. For example, if we enter a URL localhost 4200, it should redirect to /employees URL. And we have added header with some navigation links, and we have also added footer to our Angular application. In next video, we'll create create employee component, and we'll configure route for create employee component, and we'll implement create employee functionality. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in next video.